We noticed that his gait or his walking mobility was off because it seemed like his gait changed throughout the day. And so it was really challenging to specifically identify, what were his issues, where were they located.
Barnaby is the oldest resident at Blank Park Zoo. He has been at the zoo since 1966, since we opened, and he's an Aldabra tortoise. We actually originally noticed some dragging marks in the sand, and so we were trying to figure out the cause of the drag marks in the sand, and then we noticed what we call dipping his front right shoulder.
His condition has been published before in really smaller turtles or tortoises, not in giant tortoises. So that makes that next step even more challenging, is a whole nother level of intricacies into how to manage a case like that.
When we first noticed it, it kind of was doing more observations throughout the day and just seeing kind of what his activity level was at, because we noticed he wasn't moving around as much as he used to. We also tried to do some ultrasounds, and we did different radiographs on different limbs. It was a lot of trial and error, but definitely a lot of radiographs to try and diagnose exactly which limb it was and just what part of it was the issue. So at first we tried to diagnose his back legs, and then our vets, who are fantastic, they figured out that it was his front right that was dropping and causing his hind legs to drag while he was walking.
I've been a veterinarian for nearly 9 years now, and I've been at the zoo for 8 of those, and senior veterinarian for 4. So the first steps with him in particular, or really any animal here at the zoo, is we go and get eyes on the individual. And so that was really what really prompted our further investigation in Barnaby. The tough thing about what his challenges were was that there was actually 3 legs that look affected, and it was all due to one leg that was the issue. So we had to go through the process of ruling out other things that we were seeing with his gait. And in doing so, it was his front right, his back right, and his back left that all kind of looked different. And through kind of the process of evaluating him over and over and over, and at different times during the day, we concluded that kind of the area of most concern was that front right leg. And that was what was causing kind of that back right and that back left to also look a little funky. So once we kind of figured out which leg was the one that was probably eliciting most of the other changes, we really kind of dove into assessing that leg. And that's where we really kind of established a root cause of what we were seeing, which was his shoulder joint. And specifically at certain points in his ambulation or in moving that front right leg, what would happen is that shoulder joint would actually pop out and then go back in, which was kind of altering how he was using that leg, which provided us a lot of information about, 1, what was happening, and then 2, kind of where we needed to go from there.
Barnaby, fortunately, is very loving. He loves his keepers, so he's eager to work with us, and he makes that aspect of it pretty easy. So our veterinary staff, they actually have a mobile radiograph. It comes with like a little panel, so we just put the panel on the ground, and we kind of were able to shoot from up above, and we could see down into the limb. We also did the ultrasound, but you kind of have to be careful because once he lays down his full weight and shell, so you would kind of have to like get up into the joint for the ultrasound, and so you would have to pull your hand out really quick if he decided to lay down. But he's usually pretty good. He stands right up for some shell scratches or neck scratches, so he likes the keeper interaction a lot.
So going back kind of through our options of treatments, and now having a diagnosis of, it's a joint, and that joint really needs rest to heal properly. And a lot of the papers that are in smaller tortoises, you really just wrap that limb to the shell to restrict movement. Seems easy, fairly straightforward. Again, when you're looking at doing that with a 500-pound tortoise, who is exceptionally strong. Like, I don't think a lot of people realize how strong he is, even though he's slow, even though he's clumsy. Like, he is exceptionally strong. So how do we do that with something like this? So I think all of those challenges ended up shaping our treatments or our treatment strategy into looking at other options for limb restriction. And the option that we thought was probably most feasible, even though it was a stretch, was instead of restricting his limb, how do we just restrict the weight to that limb? And all of those things kind of came into play into deciding, hey, maybe a scooter that actually lifts him up and takes that weight off of that arm might be our most feasible option that has the less possible risk and the most possible reward.
It sounded like a cool project, something I wanted to be a part of. I felt like if there was any way I could help, I wanted to. So I was excited, and I also wanted the challenge. The scooter itself was made out of steel, and the mat on top of him was like a rubber pad basically to help keep it from sliding. And then the straps that we used were just basic ratchet straps. Attaching the scooter was pretty stressful. We wanted to do it in a way where he wasn't going to be uncomfortable, and we could still do it in a timely manner so it wasn't going to take all day.
Barnaby has a really unique shell, specifically with where that scooter might sit on. His shell's also at a really specific angle that we needed. So those were a lot of the initial challenges. And props to our maintenance team who ended up doing multiple renditions of this scooter, because we'd figure something out and then we'd try it and it would be just a little bit off, or we said, okay, that's not gonna work anymore.
So getting Barnaby onto the scooter and getting it fitted and everything, that took quite a few trial and error moments. So we had times where we put it on and then 5 minutes later we had to take it off because it wasn't working. We had one day where it was on for the whole day, and at 4:30 p.m., which is typically when a lot of us are leaving to go home, he decided that it wasn't gonna work, and he actually was like almost fully on his side and had the cart up tilted pretty badly, and he almost landed on his foot. And so we decided to take it off that night.
The biggest challenges were probably finding out a way to get it to fit right and how to attach it without harming Barnaby. We changed the straps a couple times. We added a different padding on the bottom that would help keep it from sliding around. We added more wheels on the bottom than we originally were going to. All the extra different things we did to it helped keep him stable. He likes to move around a lot, it seemed like, and keeping the thing from sliding out from under him was a good way to keep it from hurting him and making sure it was doing what it was designed to do.
And then when we finally came to the final result, where he then was on it for the extended period of time, that transition into his husbandry was kind of hard. He had to learn how to walk using the scooter, and just knowing that his limbs weren't what he was used to for the last 80 plus years. So it's kind of hard on us just to see him make the transition, because obviously we want all of our animals to be happy and healthy all the time, but sometimes it just is, we have to do things to help them in the long run. And I think just if he was on the scooter and he got a good step, he was zooming, he was running, he was getting in front of the door. So we just had some challenges figuring out the best way to do his husbandry every single day, just making sure that the keepers were staying safe and that he was staying safe.
So our initial treatment strategy was, one, the scooter itself, right? So get that weight shifted off that front right leg to allow that joint to start healing, or that process of healing that joint to start. Also included in our treatment plan was physical therapy, right? I know a lot of people go through that, and it's an important part of treatment plans. And so what we wanted to do, or what we were trying to establish, was as that joint heals without having pressure on it, that the joint doesn't heal abnormally. So we wanted that joint to still be functional in a way that was normal for him. And so what that did is that started physical therapy up to 3 times a day. And that's really just moving that front limb in a normal way, in a normal position, holding it in normal positions, as well as flexion and extension in a normal ability or a normal way. Included in our treatment plan was also laser therapy. So a veterinary specific laser that is directed specifically at that joint to try to improve and encourage healthy healing of that inflammation or of that area that was really abnormal and probably causing a little bit of pain and discomfort, try and really get those tissues to heal. Dr. Melinda Austin at Balanced Veterinary Service was fantastic in donating her time and efforts into providing the laser therapy for Barnaby. So keeper staff were our main outlet for care for him from a day-to-day standpoint. So most of the time they were the ones that were doing the 3 times a day physical therapy. They were monitoring his care up here in the hospital. So everything from enrichment, making sure he was still getting attention that he needed or deserved to maintain good welfare. Obviously taking care of him, diet, cleaning, all of that. And so really keeper staff were our first point of reference for his ongoing care while in the hospital and on the scooter.
I do think that him being so social and really liking the keeper interaction definitely made this whole process a lot easier. With him being so big, so he's about 500 pounds, it definitely, his cooperation and his willingness to participate in diagnostics and his treatment further down the line definitely, I mean, that flipped the coin. If he wasn't as interactive with us, if he didn't like us so much, then I definitely think, I mean, it could have made everything a lot harder for us to do, for sure. We do a lot of training with all of the animals at the zoo, so we use positive reinforcement training, so he knows that he is gonna have positive interactions with his keepers. So we do everything in our power to make all of our interactions positive as opposed to negative, so he is more eager and willing to come hang out with us and come say hi.
We're just going to go on 3. We're going to try to move straight up on 3. 1, 2, 3.